In this video, I'm going to show you 3 things that you can copy from the best women on the planet to help you develop a better forehand. Before I explain what they are, leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think they'll be. The video that I'm using for the analysis is from Slow Mo Tennis. He's got an amazing channel, so make sure that you check it out. So now let's watch the top 4 women in the world hitting their forehands in slow motion, and then we'll break down the technique. And what I want you to do is notice similarities and notice differences between the players' techniques. There's a really important concept to understand, and that's the difference between style and substance. Style are going to be the elements of the stroke that look a little bit different between the players. It's more about personal preference. Substance are going to be the things that all the best players do, and they're so important that every single player has to do them. So that's what we're going to focus on, because they're the things that you want to identify within your own game, and they're the things you need to work on because they're going to help you to improve more quickly. And at the end, I'm going to explain the 3 things that I would focus on because they're the biggest problem for most players. So if we watch Sablenka, she's going to start off with a split step, and she's going to land with a nice wide stable base where her feet are going to be much wider than the width of her hips and her shoulders. She's then going to do a quick unit turn and preparation. Notice that she stayed low to the ground as she did that unit turn. So she landed there and her legs have stayed bent. So she's doing a unit turn as she maintains her stability and being low to the ground. So let's look at the position she's in terms of preparation. If we look at the upper body, the torso is a little bit past 90 degrees. The arm is across her body. The racket is relatively high, so way above her head height. And then let's look at the position of the legs. So we've got a good leg bend on both of the legs. So she's really set herself up in position to be able to generate power. She's then going to initiate the swing by bringing her racket down towards the ground. She's going to do that. The arm's going to fade away, or the left arm's going to start to fade away. As she gets towards roughly the bottom portion in the back position, now she's going to start to fire her hip to really drive the kinetic chain. She's going to come through to contact, and what I want you to notice here is how far away she is from the ball at contact. So she's got really good spacing between her and the ball. A reasonably bent arm at contact. She is watching the ball at contact. So she's doing a lot of things that are classically going to be really important. And then the follow through. Obviously that was a tricky ball because of where she followed through to, but sometimes that's what happens. Now let's skip forwards and we'll look at Iga. So again, what we're going to see here is she's going to land with a nice wide stable base. She's doing a split step and the feet are much wider than a hip width and shoulder width apart. She's then also going to do a really quick unit turn. You can see the way that she starts her preparation looks a little bit different, and the exact position that she gets into is a little bit different. The ball is lower that she's dealing with, but her racket is much lower. She's also got a really good torso rotation, so I'm going to say that's a little bit past 90 degrees. Her arm is a bit different. So Sablenka's arm was over there somewhere. Iga's arm is still bent back in this position. But she's now about to initiate the forward swing. She's going to do it in the same way. We've also got this good leg bend on both legs, which we're going to be part of the stroke. And then she's going to initiate by bringing the racket downwards. And again, as it gets to kind of the lowest point it's going to get to, she's then going to start to fire the hip forwards. And as she fires the hip forwards, that's going to initiate the rest of the forward swing. It's going to create the racket lag, and she's going to come through to contact. Now at contact, again, she's got a Western grip. She's got a pretty bent arm that's maybe about 90 degrees, but even though it's 90 degrees, look how far away she is from the ball. She's got really good spacing, even though you wouldn't necessarily think of her as someone who's got amazing spacing. But compared to, rec players and club players, she sets up much further away from the ball. Not quite looking directly at it at contact, but I think the eyes are roughly there. And then the follow through finishes like so. Let's go to Coco Gauff. Again, we're going to see she lands from the split step. She's got a nice wide stable base. She's going to start doing a preparation. So the preparation is going to be nice and quick. She's ready in plenty of time. You can see for her, I think the torso is around 90 degrees on this one, so slightly less torso rotation than the other two had. The racket very high, way above her head. Her arm isn't right the way across the body. Even in this position, before she starts a forward swing, the arm is kind of starting to point forwards a little bit. She's also got really good leg bend in both her legs. She's going to initiate the swing in the same way. She's going to start dropping the racket. So it's going to be a really important thing for timing, dropping the racket before you start to fire the hip. But the angle that she gets into is going to be a little bit different. The other two, they had their strings kind of more flat, pointing down towards the floor. Hers are kind of more at that angle at around 45 degrees. She's then going to swing through to contact. So she fires through the hip, creates the racket lag, comes through to contact, and again she's got a pretty bent arm, so around 90 degrees, but even though she's got a bent arm, she's still got this really good spacing. And then we've got the follow through, and she was doing a great job of watching the ball through to contact. And then we'll go to Jessica Pegula lastly, and again notice split step, wide, stable base, much wider than hip width and shoulder width, and she's hitting fairly casually here. When she plays competitively, she is generally a little bit wider than this, but again, really quick unit turn. Position's going to look a little bit different. The racket is a little bit above head height, the arms across. I'm going to say that torso is at about 90 degrees as well. She's also going to have a decent leg bend, not quite as much leg bend as the others, but again, this isn't her in competition mode. This is her rallying as part of her warm-up, I believe. She's then going to initiate the swing in the same way. She's going to start dropping the racket before she fires the hip, but we're going to get into roughly the lowest position of the backswing. Now, what I want you to notice here is the angle of her strings. You'll hear a lot of coaches saying that your strings need to be pointing down towards the floor to close the racket face to help you get topspin. That's not what she's doing, so it's obviously possible to hit amazing forehands without doing that. But then, from there, she's going to fire the hip forwards. I'm slightly in the way of contact. Let's pull me out the way. And again, not quite 90 degrees like we've seen from some of them, but really good spacing through contact. And then we've got the follow through, and then we'll move me back because I feel a little bit more comfortable over there. So you've had a look at their techniques. What similarities did you notice? What differences did you notice? The three things that I'm going to recommend that you copy from them are going to be, number one, the split step. They all do a split step on every single shot. And what you need to do is you need to record yourself to find out exactly what you're doing. Because a lot of players think they're doing things, but if they watch themselves back on camera, they're not actually doing what they thought they were doing. So record yourself, and if you're not doing a split step, that's what you need to focus on. And if you are doing a split step, how wide is your base? Is it fairly narrow? A lot of players are way too narrow. If that's the case, you need to make your split step wider. And it's going to be an absolute priority to focus on it because it's an element of substance that all the best players do. The next thing that happens is that really quick preparation. Look how quickly she landed from her split step. Boom! She starts that preparation. The upper body torso is rotated as quickly as possible. So this is going to be the next thing that you should focus on within your own practice. Again, record yourself, see what happens, how quickly do you prepare, and if you're not preparing quickly enough, part of this is just the intent. You can literally practice doing your split step and then turning quickly to train the habit of moving more quickly and rotating more quickly. But what I find here for a lot of players is the reason they don't prepare quickly is because they can't read the flight of the ball quickly enough or accurately enough. So for most adult players, not necessarily beginners, because you've just started playing, but if you've been playing tennis for a period of time and you still don't prepare quickly, normally it tells you that your visual system isn't capable of reading the flight of the ball quickly enough. So that's something you want to work on training and improving. To help you with that side of things, I've created a program. It's called Pro Ball Tracking Secrets. I'll place a link to it in the description. Click on that link, it'll take you over to a different page that's going to explain more about the program. But it's really going to help you with ball tracking and every visual component in tennis. So second aspect is going to be this early preparation. Now, if I was to choose four things, what I would also add is this leg bend. Most players are way too upright when they play tennis. You'll see from all of the top players, they do a wide split step. They stay low as they move towards the ball, and they stay low as they come in towards hitting their shot. A lot of players try and copy what they do with the rackets, what they do with the racket and their upper body, but it's a whole body technique. You need the lower body and the upper body functioning together, and having a good leg bend is part of it. Potentially that might mean you need to work on your strength or flexibility or conditioning in order to be able to get into these positions, but if you want to develop high level technique, it's just part of the game. But I'm not going to include that as one of the things to copy, although you definitely could and would benefit from it. The third thing that we're going to be copying is the spacing. This is probably, after late preparation, this is the number one thing that I see holding players' forehands back. All of the top female players have a bent arm. If you watch a lot of the top men's players, they have more of a straight arm structure, but all of these top women have got a relatively bent arm, and even though they've got a bent arm, they've still got really good spacing and distancing between them and the ball. So again, record yourself from the back and see how close you're getting to the ball. If you're too close, it's an absolute priority to focus on trying to correct that in your practice. And again, it's literally just a case of having the intent when you're shaping up for your forehand, thinking about setting up further away from the ball. Now, sometimes players need to do a little bit of work on their footwork, so I've got a free program that's going to help you with that. I'll place a link to that down in the description, and then the visual side of things is going to be important here as well. If you can't accurately read the flight of the ball, even if you work on your footwork, even if you've got good intent, you can often end up too close to the ball. So the visual side of things will be really useful for that as well. So the program will be down in the description if you want to check it out. But they're the three things that I would copy from the best women in the world. And this applies whether you're a man or a woman. It's about the elements of substance, not style. So I mentioned things to do with timing and technique. I kind of talked about the way they all tend to bring the racket down. So they start by bringing the racket down, and then they fire the hip. So that's going to be a really important thing to think about for a lot of people. But what's crucial is that tennis shots happen in order. It's a sequence of events. So all of them, they did this split step, they prepared in a certain way, they set up the right distance from the ball, they had amazing preparation before they then used the actual swing mechanics that they use. So swing mechanics are obviously important, but if you don't get the stuff that comes before it right, you won't be able to use the optimum biomechanics. So that's why these are the things that I would focus on, because these are the biggest problems that I see from players to do with their forehand. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it's been helpful. If it has, it'd be much appreciated if you give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel before, it's also much appreciated if you could do that. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.